We ended off the last chapter with Vikir realizing that baby madam was still in the arena while the exam is still ongoing. We could see her now happily taking in as much poison as her tiny body could handle. Vikir could only watch from the stands. Panic was written all over his face as he thought for sure that he had placed the baby madam back into his jacket the moment the exam was finished. Seeing her in there now, he figured out that the baby madam might have jumped back out because she wanted to eat more of the poison that was in the arena. He could even see that she had grown bigger in a short period of time. Baby madam had even shed her body once. Seeing the way she was growing, she definitely was the baby of the original Madam 8 Legs. Since the exam was still ongoing, Vikir couldn't do anything about baby madam since Tutor's group was still inside. Vikir could only hope that the presence of baby madam wouldn't do anything to the exam, and that Tutor's group would be able to finish their exam without any trouble. Without skipping a beat, Tutor stabs through a monster easily with his spear, blasting it into multiple pieces. Seeing the good work that he was doing, the blonde hero couldn't help but strike a pose, basking in his good work over killing the monsters. Bianca, on the other hand, wasn't that impressed by his work, telling Tutor that he was needlessly wasting his energy, and that there wasn't any need to turn the ant monsters into pieces. Her comment was enough to annoy him. Pushing it even further, Bianca aims her bow at the incoming monsters, as Tutor tells her that he wanted to see how well her self-control is compared to his. Feeling confident about her skill, Bianca tells the blonde hero to watch carefully and see how the master gets it done. Sending a single shot of an arrow covered in her purple aura, it curves and bends through the air to get to the closest ant monster. Without any trouble, it penetrates the skull of the monster with ease. Tutor was actually impressed by Bianca's skill as he heads in to fight even more monsters. As he gains a new sense of competitive spirit, in order to not be outdone by Bianca, Sancho manages to slice a single ant monster with one blow from his axe. After being done with his side, he watches over the pair of them, confused about whether they were really enemies or friends. PG was actually watching their situation closely. He shouted at them that they had all strayed from their original positions and needed to fix it. In a mere few seconds, PG found the proper solutions. He tells Bianca that they didn't need to kill the ant monsters. Instead, he found it better if she was to just go after the joints in their front legs. For Tutor, PG wanted him to use a smashing attack when the ants disperse, as it would be more effective in the long run. For Sancho, PG's goal was for them to bring in the ant monsters closer instead of stopping them in the middle. The group were eager to follow PG's instructions without question, as they deemed his judgments better than theirs. The two boys excitedly went on to do as PG said, impressed by the young warrior. PG was happy to hear their compliments after all. He didn't want to be a burden to the team, so he had worked hard, and was glad to see his hard work paying off. With their team combination and skill set, they believed that it was possible for them to set a new record amongst the first years. After some time, no more ant monsters were alive as the group tried to catch their breath again. The results of Tutor's group, Group 109, is a record of 19 minutes and 55 seconds, which makes them tied for first place amongst the first years. Grenouille was pissed off after seeing their score. As he called them idiots, he couldn't believe that a group which has commoners inside them would have the same score as his group. Tutor's group were also disappointed in their record. Bianca couldn't believe that they were tied for first place, while PG's soul was leaving his body, as they only needed one more second to be the best. Tutor was just glad that their score meant that he didn't have to run around the academy naked. As they were heading out of the arena, Bianca started to talk about their HP shield that blocks shock, realizing that they would have actually died if the exam turns out to be a real battle when their HP reaches 0. Sancho was actually excited. He told the group that one day he wanted to become a warrior who can last for an hour, just like President Dollor's. It turns out that she was watching their group closely from the stands as well. She was happy about their results, knowing that they were a part of her club, and wondered how strong they were going to be in the future. But as she watches them get ready to leave the arena, the announcer suddenly told everyone that Phase 1 of the exam has ended, which concludes the end of the first year exclusive monsters, and that right now Phase 2 will now begin. The second year exclusive monsters will now appear. Hearing that, Dollor was immediately alarmed by what was going on. It turns out to be a problem, as more ants, stronger than before, had appeared in the arena before Tutor's group could leave. Everyone from the stands, including Vikir and Grenouille's group, were all shocked to see what they were witnessing. Tutor's group was the most shocked as they gathered all together, all confused by what was going on as more ants were coming out again, when they thought the exam had finished already. Tutor, seeing that the situation was getting worse, orders his group to be careful, as the physical damage they received from this moment on was going to be real. Their chances of seeing God was more than 0%. As they braced themselves for the upcoming deathmatch, Tutor reminds them that they only need to hold their ground until the school steps in. In the magic control room where the exam was being controlled from, the professors were all in a state of panic after realizing what was going on. The students in the arena had their HP reduced to 0, but the exam was still going on. Seeing that the students were first years, the professors demanded to know who allowed Phase 2. Analyzing the situation, one of the professors could see that aside from the students trapped in the arena, the system could detect a strong life force with them, which may have led to an error. The professor was monitoring the situation closely. Knowing that all signs of life should have been gone, the normal suit's HP the students were wearing reached 0. But for some reason, in their system, it was showing them that there was a presence overflowing with life who is still able to fight. As the professors were trying to get a grasp of the situation, Dollor barges into the room, informing them of the problem in the exam. She demanded of the professors that they needed to save the students who were inside the arena. But all they did was look at one another, telling Dollor that they were just the people who manage the waves that go in the exam, and that it wasn't their responsibility to check the program's reaction to life. Soon enough, the professors started to ignore Dollor's presence. Instead, they were discussing amongst themselves about the fastest way to save the formation. But all of them weren't taking action, as they needed permission from the higher-ups first to do anything. So instead, they argued to break the magic wall down quickly, but then they would need a key in order to do so. One of the professors had a key, but it was impossible to break the magic wall with just one key. It turns out that another professor had an additional key, but in the midst of the chaos, she had gone to the bathroom, and now they couldn't contact her at all. Dollor finally bites her lower lip in anger as she could see that the professors were incapable of doing anything to save the students who were facing death in the arena. Just outside the magic control room, Vikir was seen sitting near the window. He was listening closely to what was going on amongst the professors. It turns out to be an error in the magic equipment used in the exam. He thought about how during his own test, the system couldn't detect any reaction to life, which means that the magic stones used could only sense life after baby Madam had eaten the poison and grew. Looking back at the arena, Vikir wasn't sure if it was because of the error, but the poison fog from within was spreading at an alarming rate. If they didn't hurry up, Tutor's group would be unsavable. Looking for a way to help, Vikir was quick to spot something with his sharp eyes. There were holes that were created for air circulation, but the hole was too small for a human to fit in. But now he had another trick up his sleeve. Back at the stands, the students were moving around in a mess. Sinclair was clueless about what was going on, and thought that some group had set a better record than her team. As she wandered around, she suddenly screamed as something fast and small bumped into her. Falling onto the group, the nearby students that were around her noticed something fast moving on the ground. Turning back to see what it was, Sinclair was left confused, as she saw a puppy carrying a pair of pants. Back in the magic control room, somebody was smacking the magic crystal repeatedly, while the professors were too stunned to do anything. They were shocked to see that President Dollor was wielding a sword and swinging it towards the magic crystal relentlessly. Two professors immediately grabbed onto her arms, stopping her from hitting the magic crystal, as they explained to her that it was an ancient out-of-place artifact which was very precious and expensive. But Dollor didn't care about its worth, as she knew that she needed to stop the magic connection between the magic stone and the arena in order to save Tutor's group. But the professors still didn't allow her to do so, reminding the president that if she breaks the magic crystal, then it wouldn't end with her expulsion. They would also request compensation from the Quo Vadis family. Ignoring their threats and uselessness, Dollor remains focused in order to save Tutor's group, as she was willing to do anything. Back in the arena, PG gets knocked out by a massive ant monster. Its strike was enough to knock him out completely unconscious, as his eyes turned white from the pain and impact. The group could only shout at him as he went flying far behind. They tried their best to wake him up as the poison fog started to spread even faster. The remaining members of the group were soon faced with a massive shadow that towered before them, as a horde of huge ant monsters were right in front of them. Tutor, who still hasn't become a hero, realizing that he might die in vain right here and right now, It didn't take long for the ant monsters to land a hit that destroyed Tutor and Sancho. Bianca couldn't do anything to help her team as she stood frozen in fear. The massive shadow was now cast upon her. Trying her best to hold in her tears, Bianca couldn't believe that this was going to be her final moment. She didn't want to die like this. As the attack was coming, she closed her eyes. As she did, a figure with red glowing eyes appeared in the poison fog. With a fist covered in red aura, Vikir makes his appearance inside the arena, sending the ant monster to hell by blowing it up into multiple pieces, saving Bianca's life in the process. Even though the ant's attack didn't land on her, the force of Vikir's punch was enough to slowly knock her out as she wondered how it was possible for him to be here. Vikir stood alone in the arena, completely shirtless, as his body was covered in old scars. With a determined look on his face, Vikir assures Tutor's group that nothing else was going to happen to them.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.